This thing is a 100-year-old cylinder head. And today I'm going to show you how we're going to remake them. My job for this part is to take it and 3D scan it with a ferro arm, take that data, turn it into a 3D model, and then that 3D model is going to be sent to a company with a 3D sand printer that's going to print out sand molds that are going to be used to cast new castings. I'm shooting this at the end of my work, so I actually have to return this to Cam Tool right now and take him the files so that they can be sent to the 3D printing company. So let's head to Cam Tool and I'll show you a quick overview of his shop and what he does. So the guy you're about to meet has been a mentor of mine for about 6 or 7 years as far as 3D design and CNC machining. And he's really good at what he does and he's really smart. So without further ado, please meet.
Hi, I'm Greg Hazley.
Greg owns Cam Tool here in Muncie, Indiana, and he's going to be handling the CNC machining of this cylinder head. He actually makes some pretty cool stuff, like this lightsaber. How does this thing work?
You have to unscrew this.
And did you do all the design on this?
Yep.
Suit your feelings. You can't do this. I feel the conflict within you. Let go of your hate.
How'd you get the speaker to amplify? Did you design it to like megaphone?
Got a chamber in it. It works.
How much are these?
600 for a DIY.
$600, and it doesn't do the sound.
If you want it completely done, everything for you.
I gotta do a video just on this.
What you need.
Yeah.
For some reason, when you go up and down, see, it's just not sensitive. Yeah. I told him, I said, it's too.
That's cool.
At the bottom button is the menu.
Does it pick up the shock too, the deceleration?
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
Can you control like what goes on?
Who said mother? Where'd that come from?
It's a sound card. How much design time did you have in that?
I bet 60 hours.
That's not bad. How long did it take you to machine it?
I charged him $220 for all the parts we did. See, without that, it don't sound like nothing.
Yeah, it sounds really deafened.
Then when you put this on, see just that little bit.
Just gotta get the sound right, but other than that, it's really nice.
He gets that sensitivities more, make it more sensitive, so when you move it, it makes a sound.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do. Now the guy that did a review on this on YouTube, I don't know if you saw that or not.
Star Killer by, this is from the recent Cloud City Saber run.
So how much of the initial design did you do?
So feature is that it does come with that, really
From scratch? What references did you use?
Well, he had some parts, and I measured off some different parts, but
Okay.
yeah, it was.
Let's go look at the blueprint of this thing. You know you could probably sell this blueprint alone, just that, like 25 bucks a pop.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. There's tons of people that buy this.
Just like that.
Yeah. Get it printed out in blue. They got print services. I'm sure a ton of people would like this. Now that over there, can I show that? Okay. Well, I can't show you what that is, but that's the designs for the 2014 women's bobsled team for the Olympics.
Women's two-man rear chassis.
Two-man's rear chassis? Yeah. So he makes some pretty cool stuff sometimes. But he's also going to be doing some work on our blower housing for Diamond P, the video I made like 6 or 7 years ago. But yeah, I'll eventually do an entire video over his shop and everything that he's capable of and what they run. But right now, let's go head over to Arrowhead Plastics and I'll show you the 3D scanning. I don't know a whole lot about this cylinder head or the engine, but what I was told is it goes on a car that's from 1913 or 1915 called a Steve Morier, and I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I do know that the cylinder head is actually one of three. So the engine block, which goes under this, actually has two more of these in line, which makes it a 6-cylinder, and I believe it equals out to about 500 cubic inches or more, but only produces 50 horse, which, if you know anything about cars, that's terrible. But this casting is actually made in, I think, 1895, so it's over 100 years old. Now, the machining and the casting and the 3D printing is probably going to be done in a separate video. In this video, I'm just going to show you the 3D modeling and the scanning. So let's get to that. So this thing is a ferro arm edge. It's a 6-axis articulating 3D scanning head. I believe they retail anywhere from $40,000 to $120,000. This isn't mine. I'm just using this from a company that I know. This is actually owned by a company called Arrowhead Plastics here in Muncie, and they do thermoforming and fiberglass layups. And I'll eventually get around to doing a video over their company and all the things they do. They got some pretty cool parts, but the way this thing works is it actually has two modes. It can either 3D scan with a laser line, or you can use a probe 3mm ball, which is used to pick up the more accurate dimensions, like machined holes and stuff. And I believe this thing is accurate to within 1 to 2 thousandths of an inch, which is take one of your hairs and slice it into 8 pieces. That's how accurate this thing is. Once the model was scanned and completed, I imported it into a software called MeshLab, and the data that this scanning arm produces is just called point cloud data. It's not actually a solid model, it's just millions upon millions of points. I believe this scan was 4 million total points, and MeshLab is not a very user-friendly software. It's kind of very unintuitive, but it's a very powerful software. And what I did was imported it in, and then I did a compute normals, which kind of figures out where the center point of the model is, and it orients all the point cloud datas. And then I reduced the point cloud just to save memory, because these files are way too massive for the software that I'm going to be designing in. After the point cloud is reduced, then a mesh model is created, and the mesh model is a triangulated mesh, which is also a lot of data, so it has to be further reduced into a quad-based mesh. I'll be designing in Fusion 360, so quad-based meshes are the best types of models to use for Fusion 360. However, depending on what software you're using, that can totally change. And you can see that the model there's I think over 500,000 triangles in this model, so it has to be reduced. I think Fusion 360 prefers nothing more than about 25,000 faces for a quad-based mesh, and even that's too much. So what I did is actually reduced it to 50,000 so I could get a really nice consistency in the detail, and then I just sliced it in half in a software called Mesh Mixer, which will reduce it down to 25,000 K, but then it's a mirror of the model, so all I have to do is design 1/2 of the model and then mirror it over, and it will be complete. And I went ahead and modeled the internals separately. It actually has its own solid model, and this is kind of a pattern making thing that I do, because while this is going to be 3D printed out of sand molds, if it comes out that it's going to be more expensive to print it out than it is to make traditional patterns, it's very useful for the pattern maker to have this solid model of the internals. This is called the core. You might have seen some of my earlier videos on Foundry Works and making castings. That piece would be used to make a core box, which would then be used to make the internal cavities of the casting, if the customer wants to go that route. All you have to do is, in Fusion 360, is subtract the core from the main housing, and then you have the cutout internals. There's a bunch of different ways to model this. This is how I prefer to do it, being a pattern maker. And that's about it. I will be keeping in contact with CamTool to figure out when the model is going to be sent to the 3D printing company, and I'm going to try to get up to that company to video the 3D printing sand molds, and then the sand molds will be shipped back down here to Muncie and will be cast out of gray iron at a facility called Muncie Castings, and I'm going to try to get into there to video that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like, and let me know if you guys want to see anything in particular. I'm sure there's going to be some people that are interested in the lightsaber. I want a lightsaber personally, but it's going to be way too much money for me, and I'll probably try to get one of the blueprints or something.